So as you begin to close your eyes down, we're going to take 3 big deep breaths together. So on your next inhale, take a really big deep breath in through your nose. Try to fill all the way up. Brief hold at the top and then a big open mouth exhale. Let your breath go. Good. We'll do that 2 more times together. Big deep breath in. Hold at the top and then let something go. One more time. And let it go. Good. Whenever you're ready, tuck your chin down towards your chest. Gently blink your eyes open. Hi.
Hello. That was so nice. Thank you.
Oh my God, of course. I mean, I know that I need it. Amanda, I'm so happy that we're here together doing this.
I am so excited. Thank you so much for inviting me on here and for meeting me in Dallas and being a friend of mine that I'm so fortunate to call a friend. So thank you for having me.
Oh my God, same. And like so many more coffees, happy hours, dates to come, which I can't wait. Because I was like, we desperately need it. I feel like the past couple months, we've both been extremely busy. But I kind of want to go into your story because you've had such an incredible journey when it's come to how you've built your business and your career journey up into this point. But I also kind of just want to talk about how Amanda has gotten to where she is now in this point, not only in career, but also maybe in life too.
Well, I'm going to preface and just say, I don't know what is in the stars today. I'm so emotional, which I usually feel like I'm like not. I'm going to preface that because just even that question, I was like, I'm getting teary eyed. So I can just imagine there's going to be some really beautiful, emotional expressions throughout this podcast. My story with how I've built my brand, my goodness, if someone was to say to me that I would have ever been an entrepreneur, that I would have ever started my own business, that I would have ever done any of the things that I've done, I would have said that that's so untrue. I like to preface that because I never sought out to become an entrepreneur. It just kind of happened. And so I feel like I didn't prepare by going to business school or knowing how to get, going to get a master's or anything like that. So I feel grateful for the opportunity to have built it by not knowing anything. And that really is the audience that I support now. Are people who are really passionate about something in the world and they know they want to pursue it, but how do we turn it into a viable business that can support them, that can help them pay their bills and also allow them to be in their soul's alignment? I have been on this journey for 18 years, I'm 36 now, and I started when I was 18. I had a really big dream and vision. It's all the kind of quintessential millennial type of experiences of growing up with fashion magazines, watching The Hills, seeing these women who were inspiring to me at the time pursue careers in fashion editorial. And you blend that with my childhood, my upbringing, which was tumultuous. And I learned how to express myself through journaling in my notebook, my diary as a child, and also through creative expressions like mood boarding. So those two hybrid allowed me to have this dream at 18 of looking at content, looking at magazines and feel like they're lacking substance. Like I was talking about really big, deep stuff as a young child, and I seeked that depth and that resonant type of content in the things that I was consuming. I felt like it was all fluff. I felt like it wasn't very inspiring or captivating to me. And that's when I had the dream of being an editor-in-chief for a magazine to make content that I wished to see in the world. Had that as my North Star for a really long time and followed the path of internships to editorial assistants, worked my way up in the world of helping people make content and had to learn a lot of lessons throughout the way, which I'm happy to dive through any and all of them because it's really helped me become a really embodied founder that I am now by going through a lot of lessons that I needed to learn And my journey with my career, has started since 18, but about 10 years ago, I decided to take everything that I learned from all of the internships and the editorial assistant positions and package it and start offering it to clients as a freelancer. This was like Saturn return time. And after 40 informal coffee dates in New York City, it was like such a fun time back then when fashion and wellness were kind of blending, where like the outdoor voices of the world were coming up. And there was just like this intersection of fashion and wellness that really called to me. And because I was on my own kind of inner journey, I've always been interested in psychology, therapy, Kundalini, like wellness, well-being from a mental perspective, because the stuff that I dealt with when I was a child required all of that for survival. And through each stage of my healing journey, I've gone sometimes in the physical realm, so like really deep into healing adenomyosis and hormonal imbalances. And then sometimes it's really mental, like depression. And so my flow of wellness kind of flows in all sorts of places wherever I'm feeling like I need support. Just because I really grew up in a childhood where I needed these tools to help me self-regulate, to not self-abandon, you name it. Like I went through that as a child. And so my whole life has just been like, how do I live in alignment with who I am, but also like, who am I? When you have young childhood trauma, you don't know what the difference is between, or I didn't know the difference. I didn't know who it was. And so much of my journey of this spiritual wellness stuff has been that. And so I worked with a lot of wellness brands about 10 years ago, and that just has kept going for 10 years. And in the background, I've built my brand and helped other people make their content. And
because you've worked with some pretty incredible like tastemakers, change makers, wellness brands, not only when you were in New York, but I also feel like once you moved to LA as well. I mean, last time we got coffee, you were telling me a lot of the people that you were working with in the past and still work with, I feel like every now and again, or still stay connected with. I mean, pretty incredible people. And so to be able to support other wellness brands in kind of the heyday of what it was back then, and to now continue to not only build your own business on the background of that, but also to continue to support other brands the way that you do is so unbelievable. And in that same breath, you have really helped people, I feel like, with their authentic voice and to share that. How have you been able to help your clients articulate that authentic voice or help them find themselves?
Yeah, it's such a great question. Thank you for asking. I am incredibly grateful and fortunate to have worked for the people that I've worked for. And for anyone who's out there being like, how do you even get started with that? I just want to give a little like tip of advice through my experiences. The way I got all the brands was, number one, I put myself out there. I applied to the things. I tried to work for them. Even like if I look at my journey with Michael Kors, I worked at Michael Kors retail store in Maryland, got to know the brand. I mean, I would have never known that I would have lived in New York City and worked for the brand in the headquarters. But like, you never know, any time you feel called to a brand or a company or something, just try it out. And one thing led to the other. And then when you start to build a resume of those brand names, people see that on your resume and they're like, well, if that person trusted that person, then like, and they're the high echelon, then, so it is this kind of gradual thing that I was very intentional with the brands I reached out to. Wanted to be associated with those people and those brands. And I wanted to rise to that challenge of what it would take to work for them. So just a little caveat about that and how I kind of got there. It's a total intention. I worked my way up and I put myself in the situations to be available to them. And that's a big thing that I want to like really drive home is you can work with them if you reach out and try. And so,
which I think is huge. And like, because some people, I feel like there's such a fear of oversaturation of like, oh, well, there's so many people that want to do marketing or branding or social media or whatever it is for these bigger brands where it's like, oh, who's going to listen to me? And that sometimes I feel like individuals are like, oh, well, there's no way that I could make that work. How do you get through the mental hustle or battle to be like, oh, no. It could be me. It could totally be me.
I mean, I'll even use an example right now. A dream client of mine that I've had on my kind of dream list is Peter Crone. And I'm now in his mastermind. And I'm like, I'm going to put myself in a situation where because I've reached out to his team to work with him to help them build content constantly over the past like year. And it's not that I'm like upset that I haven't heard back. It's just like kind of a numbers game. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to actually put myself in the masterclass, and it's investment to actually experience what they're already creating. So if I'm already wanting to come in and help them build more content, I need to know like, what are they even experiencing? So like, you know, putting yourself into their world to experience things, to then start to know that you're a fan, or not even a fan, just a customer, you're an audience member. And that in itself shows them that you're more than just wanting to be an employee, that you care deeply about their mission, their vision, you're part of being part of the community that they're building. And I think that would be an example of, you know, if it's really in alignment with what you feel to be calling to do, then show up and do the things, even if it's signing up for a newsletter or, you know, joining an IG live, like being involved and participating would be my best tip of advice. And you'll pick up things like, oh, I got a ping, or I got an intuitive hit, or you just see kind of where it goes. And to follow those has been my best advice. And to go back to your question about how do I help people discover their voice, I think going back to something that I shared, which is so perfect, which is that since the age of 8, I haven't known who I was. Through that, I've learned how to sit with myself and ask myself questions about like, who am I? And allowing that space to just be who I am. And that has taught me to sit and hold space in a non-judgmental place about who is this person in front of me? What is their truth? And I think going through the things that I went through as a child and experiencing that really allowed me to have a non-judgmental perspective on other people. And I think my clients can feel that, because there's something that happens when we get together and we sit together where more often than not saying to my clients, what is your most biggest grandiose dream? And I'm going to help you make it happen. And I don't think a lot of people can hold space for that. And I think that's where a lot of people's trust in me comes from. They can share that. And just by sharing it starts the alchemization of it actually coming to fruition. And maybe they've never said that to somebody before, and they've never said it to someone that could hold them. And I think that, you know, there's a lot of support in just that. And then that's kind of when we get the ball rolling, and whether it's something I'm able to like actually know how to do myself, or we hire a team to make it happen, I'm their collaborator, I'm their co-partner in making all of that happen, whatever the thing is that they want to build. Because I also think it's something that I deeply wish that I had when I was younger too, was that someone that was like, okay, you have a big dream. I believe in you. And not only do I believe in you, I'm going to help you make it happen. And I think I've discovered how to hold space for others, because I wish I would have had that for myself.
You know, it's so funny because I totally resonate with that. And I have noticed that we step into our power, especially, I mean, I was just talking about this earlier today where, you know, in our early childhood, in our teens, in our 20s, we go through these wild, crazy stories that is our life as we grow up, whether they're chaotic or whether they're safe, whatever the story is. But we all end up kind of in our 30s now realizing, oh, this is our power, but it's also because of how we grew up, how the challenges and the trials came. That's what makes us so powerful, is that we use what we went through as a mirror to then give the gift of what maybe we craved to others. And I think it's just such a beautiful thing, because the more people I connect with, the more I'm realizing that our true gifts lie behind the wild and craziness of what we had to experience.
Absolutely. And the strength that has had to come from those obstacles and those challenges. If you don't mind me asking, what would you say is one of those things that you're now providing support and guidance for that you wish you had had when you were younger?
I love this question. Give it back to me, Amanda. Let's go. You know, it's funny. As far as I would say gifts is like holding space, like truly deeply trying to make people feel seen and held and supported to the best of my ability. You know, not every day is perfect, but I will say there were so many times when I was a kid where I was the outcast or the outsider, or I didn't feel like I was seen because I didn't look a certain way or didn't act a certain way or wasn't in the cool group or whatever. And to feel unseen and unheard in a community was really difficult for me. And being able to provide that back to, okay, tell me what's going on. Like, you're safe, you're held to share what you need to let go, what you need to release, whatever stories, habits, patterns. But I think also that's why this podcast kind of has come to fruition totally unexpectedly as well too, because we all need a space to share our gifts and share our story. And unfortunately, or fortunately now, we have social media to help with that. And this is another platform to share. And on a bigger level, whether it's simply starting local, but then you never know where things could take you. For people that don't know what you do, they're like, who is Amanda Shays? Tell me what you do. Like, what do you do for people?
Yes, it is super multifaceted, even though I am a manifestor in human design. So anyone that's familiar with human design, it might sound like I'm a manifesting generator, but I promise there's a through line with at least this passion of mine. I'm about to change my tagline from a life of more to doing more of what you love. And that's essentially what I'm here to do. I just want to help people do more of what they love to do. And so when people come to my door, what do you want to do? You want to teach? You want to write a book? You want to make a podcast? You want to make an e-course? You want to build a team? You tell me what you want to do, and I help you make it happen. Really simply. That's the core of what we do at Substance. That is, and that takes so many different forms. Sometimes it's coaching, in the sense that I have a 6-week kind of 6-step process where I teach individuals how to turn their ideas of their passions and turn it into a viable business. How do you turn I'm super passionate about, a wellness modality. Wellness modality practitioners, they don't really spend their time learning how to build a business. They learn how to become an expert into the modality and all the facets of that. And so through these 6 steps, I've had to teach myself and my clients how to understand how to turn this wellness modality into a viable business. So there's that offering. There are tons of other modalities. I do a lot of e-course creation. So someone that wants to build a masterclass, like a digital e-course, I help through the ideation, creation, and execution of that. It's like a 6 to 9 month process that we do. I'm very well known for that. A lot of my clients, when they reach this phase in their career where it's like an arc, but basically they're either growing their family, they want to pivot the way that they're working, they're burnt out by trading time for money, they want to scale and grow their business through digital content. That's usually where a client comes in. They want to make an e-course, they want to make a podcast, or they want to build an online membership to change the way in which they're making money and to optimize it and just to help them evolve with what their journey of growth is and how they want to create and show up in the world. That's predominantly where a lot of my clients live. But then I get hired randomly to help with social media content creation or making a campaign shoot. So my skills are super vast in that I have both an analytical, organizational mind and also a creative mind. And then you blend those two together and it can kind of apply to anything in the realm of creating content or creating businesses. So Substance is the business that I have where it is the umbrella for all of those different things. I have different ideal client avatars, and so those different avatars need my help in different ways. That's another way that I can kind of give you a glimpse into how the business program is that I run, because without those structures, a visionary, a creative, an entrepreneur, they have a vision for what they want to build, but you have to understand that a business is here to help people solve a problem. So by understanding the fundamentals of business and just the purpose of that masterclass, the purpose of the podcast, then we can have it be a very supportive and not always lucrative, but we have a deeper intention for why we're doing it, not just I feel called. Which there's a time and place for all of that, for sure. But I've gotten to the point now where if there's things that we want to pursue that don't necessarily need to drive revenue, that's totally fine. But just being realistic with people that do want to build a business needs money to run. And so how do we kind of make all that happen? And I'm a one-woman show here at Substance. I don't have anybody on my team. So I do a lot of it like in-house. And a lot of it is super custom, proprietary to like each individual client that I do. There's no like cookie cutter process that I do for anybody. So that's what we do for clients. And then I'm building out things slowly that I feel passionate about, that I've always wanted to kind of put out into the world too, through the magazine and through my own kind of content, but without burning out, those take the back burner. For me. They go a little bit slower, a lot slower as of right now, until I kind of make space for a new way of running my business, which I feel is coming very soon. Yeah. I'm getting a lot of hints that like things are really changing and shifting. Yay. And I don't know what's going to happen, but we have some momentum happening.
Oh, I love this.
Thanks.
There's so many directions I could go in, so I'm going to try and like tailor myself down, but there were so many things that you mentioned, especially when it comes to women in wellness, because I feel like obviously wellness is having a very trendy moment for sure over the past, I want to say decade. I mean, I feel like ever since the 2015, 2016 height of like Soul Cycle, Outdoor Voices, all the things. And now it's kind of like finally progressed to Dallas finally. But I feel like there's so many people that are wanting to become an entrepreneur, wanting to leave their 9-to-5, wanting to scale their callings or their passions. And I mean, obviously that is such a connection that I can directly connect to because, I'm actively still trying to build my business, and we're definitely going to work together some more because I gotta figure some things out. But what are the trends that you have seen with individuals, especially women in wellness, wanting to quit their corporate job, start this entrepreneurship journey, and then it's kind of like, okay, now what? Because you have to pay bills. You can't just do what you love. I mean, some of us can be lucky to be supported for a little bit of time on whatever avenues with savings or friends and family or partners or whatever. Yeah. But sometimes you have to immediately make money. How do you help people navigate that, or what trends do you see with women that are wanting to make that jump?
Yeah, it's happening a lot right now. I think there's a glamorification of it kind of happening on social media, which is there's a lot of glamification of so many things, to be honest, that you really have to, I'm an emotional wave in human design. And for me, at least, I really have to like wait till I reach a neutrality to like not try to reach towards these things that are going to be quick fixes, or if I do this, it's going to be perfect. Anytime I start to get into that thought pattern, or I see it in marketing, my little red flag goes off for me personally, because a couple things that I feel are within that, just because I've worked in content creation for over about 18 years now. And I've also been an entrepreneur myself. that type of language of this is going to save your life, this is the quick fix, that to me is an indication that they're quite early on their journey. Because I meet a lot of people all the time and they're like whatever the modality is or whatever the offering, like I'll even say it to myself, I'm like, everyone needs conscious content, like being integral with the things that you put out and like speaking your truth. There's this, like when people become aspiring entrepreneurs, there's like, this is the only thing that's going to work. They talk in absolutes. There's this like, it's this or the highway, like this very polarizing type of mentality. And that's a pure indication that they just haven't been through it enough, because they're going to lead them through something. Mm-hmm. And have you ever felt like completely complete with anything? There's no arrival. It's like you continue to unfold in your journey. You know what I mean? So it's like by going through something, you'll learn something, which will then unlock something else. Mm-hmm. And the journey continues. So I'm incredibly grateful that I have had 18 years of like getting into the weeds with all of this, to know all the things not to do. Mm-hmm. And all the things that I've also done that I'm like, wow, I can now speak on behalf of that. And I seriously think it's like such an interesting thing that there's been so many people that have risen really quickly, that have like overnight or so it seems, like became really famous or popular, or like they're selling out all their things. My journey has been the complete opposite, that like, I think if I make it by like 60, I'll be like super proud of myself. But there's something to be said about everybody's different journey and the rate in which things go, because I am a better person now I am today than I was ever before, because of all the things I went through. But to get back to your question, when I work with people now, and we there's a lot of quick fixes and like all the things that people are searching for, I bring them right back into their truth of who they are, because I wish I had someone to do this for me. I wish someone would have sat down with me and been like, let's look at your human design. Let's look at and I love telling everybody what I look at in my programs. I look at your profile, your type, so your incarnation cross. And then in astrology, we look at your North Node and South Node. Mm-hmm. And those are all I need to understand where you're meant to go and what you're meant to build from a very broad perspective, right? North nodes and south nodes are like really broad aspects of the astrology. For those of you who are unfamiliar, North node is like where your soul is headed in this lifetime. Your south node is where you were in your past lifetimes. And the more you age and progress throughout your life, the more closer you get to your north node. And when you're younger, we're kind of stuck in our south node tendencies. So all of this information just help me identify within someone what someone's real truth is. And so we start there by having them sit with that information. And then based on that, what is it that they're wanting to build? And how do we do it in a way that's really aligned with you? Because if I have someone who's coming in that's a projector in human design versus someone that's a manifestor in human design, those are two different completely business models I need to make for those people. Manifestors are here to initiate, to bring things new into the world. Projectors, their gift is being able to see patterns among people. So just by knowing those two things, a manifestor, I would never say to a manifestor, well, pay attention to what the world's going through right now and then build something based on what you see. That's what a projector is here to do. So projectors come to me and they're like, I see this happening in a society. I need to make a program for it in the way because I don't see it being done. So do you see how by understanding just these few different things, we're building completely different business bases for these people? And so I'm not trained in human design or astrology, but I am a 5-1 in human design, which is someone that loves to research and becomes an expert through research. So I'm super curious. I love learning. I'm never not in a program or doing, I'm just a super curious person. So I've just gone down the rabbit hole many times with human design and kind of taught myself through all different types of modalities. I don't think I've paid anything per se to learn it. I just, Instagram posts and maybe books and podcasts
Yes.
and things like that. But it's been enough for me to understand the basics, which is really all I need to know to be able to catalyze and to facilitate conversations that can help them identify their truth. And so when we have the basics, then we go through those 6 steps that we talked about that, are essential for business building. And just for clarity, what those are is I start with step 1, which is called the metric of success. And that is something that I created after I was in a 6-week hypnosis training. It was wealth consciousness hypnosis training, but still I took a lesson where instead of building my business goals off of like the end results, like I want to make 6 figures, I want to have 10,000 followers on Instagram, I want to work with this client, I reverse engineered it. And I said, if I want to be if I want to experience joy at the end of this year, what would I then do in my business?
Wow.
And instead of waiting for the joy to come if and when I reach those goals.
That is wild. I love hearing that.
Yes, that's step 1 in my process.
I mean, that's all you need, but hello.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I need to know 2 through 6. Oh my God.
Yeah. So that's step number 1.
Wow.
That is game changer. Because when we put that feeling and emotion first, then everything recalibrates. Maybe that 6 figures isn't going to bring me that joy. Maybe it's 7. You know what I mean? Like I'm just giving you an example, but that's step number 1. Step number 2 is very like quintessential business. It's your mission, vision, and value proposition. If you can't tell me in like 11 seconds what you do and how you help people, we need to work on that. Number 3 is your ideal client avatars. So this has been my most favorite aspect of understanding about content creation, because if anyone's familiar with your audience, it's this very vague, like confusing thing. A lot of the time people teach it in the way that's like, you make up these 3 people, Jessica, Veronica, Chelsea. And Chelsea lives in Bangladesh and, makes $100,000 a year. And it's like, you're literally like just making who you believe to be happening. But anyways, I teach it in a way that's actually very practical and very applicable. And it's choose 3 different people that actually exist that you love to work with, and that ideally are on different stages of the journey of transformation. So businesses are here to transform, help and solve a problem. So the way that I like to talk about it is someone that's early on in the stages, middle, and then like super advanced. And so you identify those 3 people that represent a whole collective of individuals. So that one person, it's a universal type of way of thinking. Okay, well, so then every time we then go into step number 4, which is content platform. So it's identifying, are you going to be on YouTube or Instagram or Substack, and why, and what are we going to be talking about on there, and with who are we talking to on each of those platforms? Then this is a tip I learned through research, is when you go to write that newsletter, you think about that person that you have identified. What would Maddie want to hear from me? Instead of just being like, oh, I want to share this, or I want to write this. You're, as a business owner, here to help them solve a problem. So if you're not thinking about your audience in every single decision that you make, you're missing out on an opportunity to help transform and change someone's life, which is, in my world, all the people I want to work with and the people that come in to work with substance. They want to make an impact. They want to help heal, spread healing to the world in some way, shape, or form. So it's just these small shifts that help them remember that they're a business owner, that they step into the CEO role of their business, and that it's not the business is overwhelming them. And these are all things that early entrepreneurs experience. And then lastly is a framework that I learned through my best friend, my mentor, guide coach, Michelle Pelizon, the founder of Holisticism. She created this framework for goal setting, which includes 4 pillars of intuitive business, which is revenue, growth, retention, and impact. So I do use that framework that she taught me to help people figure out what to focus on each quarter, because it can feel really confusing. Like, I want to do all these things at once. She teaches it in a way that is really holistic and breaks it down per quarter. So I do use her process in that. That's the 6 steps that I take people through. And then after that, we'll have a lot more clarity on, I think I missed offerings and services and products. Sorry. There's another step in between the avatars and
love it.
Yeah. And the content, which is figuring out what we want to provide them. And then after that, clients can either decide if they want to work on it on their own, or if they need help, they can reach out and we can work on it together. But my intention with everything that I do is that I teach it in a way where someone doesn't need to work with me again. I don't want to be the crutch in that, because my business has been, I want to make my own things too. So I want to teach it in a way where you can run with it and go with it. I can of course help you, but it's never been, I'd never wanted to work with clients for a long time, because I didn't get into this to be a service provider.
You know, there's so many things that you mentioned that I love. And first off is kind of the mirror of entrepreneurship being the mirror of your life, where you have to, and if someone told me a couple of years ago, very similar to how you said when we first started this episode, of if someone told me I would be doing this a couple of years ago, I don't think I'd really, I just don't know how that would have happened, period, end of story. And I think it's so fascinating that a lot of times our entrepreneurship journeys, especially as women, is what I've noticed is that it's such a reflection of who we are as a person and of what we want to provide, kind of like we were mentioning earlier, but using the human design, using the astrology to really help dictate how you share those services in the most aligned way. But then using those 6 steps is so incredible to me, because it's like you have this foundation of, okay, let's go through these 6 steps. Let's get really clear, but then let's also use like the innate gifts, skill sets, but also like where you're ultimately like meant to go as you as an individual to get this business going. Because like you so well spoke to, you don't want the business running you into burnout. And I feel like in my entrepreneurship journey, I've been doing this all by myself. So just like you, I'm definitely a few years behind you in that way. I'm only into year 5, 6 in this journey of entrepreneurship. But I have so struggled with so many things of the business running my burnout. And I'm in a total season of burnout. And I just think it's so fascinating that you have to get so clear on you to allow the business, I feel like, to run smoothly. Yeah. I would love for you to speak to that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm, doing Peter Crone's work right now. So anyone that's unfamiliar, he talks about that everyone's kind of living in this 1.0 operating system, and he's teaching you how to live in a 2.0 operating system. I'm only on week 1 of this mastermind, but I've been deep in my research mode. So I would further what you said and say that our whole life is a reflection of what we understand of ourselves. So when we look at it through that lens of our relationships, how we treat ourselves, how we treat others, how we run a business, all of it, how we're friends, like all of it is a complete reflection of who we are to some degree. And what's coming up for me to share is there are times where important for people to have business partners, because maybe not all people need to be the CEO of the business or do it all themselves and things like that. And so I think it's being able to understand what really brings me the most alignment. Where did I see myself really going with all of this? And yes, we might not think that, I wanted to be an entrepreneur in general, but it's like, if you went into this because you loved a certain modality and your business has taken over to the point where you're now providing that service or that modality 15% of their time, I'd question, are we putting you in the right role? Who do we need to bring onto your team or to have you be supported so that you're actually doing the thing that you're meant to be doing? So I would figure out where have we lost track of the North Star of why you got into this, and figure out how do we set you up? And even if it is an internal, like we don't have the bandwidth to hire someone, or I don't really want to work with anybody right now. Like I do want it to just be me. Where I go is, okay, what form can we put you in where you're teaching or you're providing that service 90% of the time? What would that look like? And it's by asking those crazy questions that a lot of epiphanies come through. It's like, oh, well, if I could run, if I could do my podcast every week and then I could be in sessions for the rest of the time, then like that would be my dream. So then we'd figure out, okay, well, how do we make that happen? What do we need to get rid of fluff, of maybe outsourcing some things, of like consultants or something like that, where we can hire out where you're actually doing the thing that you're meant to be doing in more capacity. So that's where my brain goes. We've gotten a little bit lost about what we think is important. Again, like what we think our metric of success is, like, and really coming back to the truth of like, what really is going to make you happier? What does that actually look like? And it's by sitting down and being honest with what that is. And because 9 times out of 10, there's a solution out there that we could implement to make that happen.
I love that. And obviously the word that we've been kind of speaking to a lot is alignment. And since we've both been in the wellness space for so long, that's such a natural term for us. But if someone is listening to this and they're like, what does even alignment mean? How could you speak to getting in alignment?
I'm going to go back to human design, actually, because there's this thing called the not self, and it is the opposite of how each design is meant to feel. So for a manifestor, it's anger. And when I'm in alignment, it's peace. So those are my 2 feelings that I can feel into. Am I angry right now, or am I peaceful right now? That is a really basic kind of marker to kind of pay attention to. Each profile has different feelings, so you'll have to kind of find out what yours is. But that's been a great indicator for me that something is out of alignment is when that anger shows up, or when I'm feeling resentful or angry or mad or like frustrated. For me as a manifestor, that's how I start to see the signs. And then, we kind of can go there by figuring out some information, right? So for example, I had a client that was difficult, and instead of and I could sense that the way we were working just wasn't making me feel peaceful. So instead of getting rid of the client, which we have all autonomy to do at any time, I felt, is there something within me, my process, the way that I'm taking on this project, that needs to shift for me to feel more peaceful during this project? And I made those shifts of what I've identified of structures and systems that I need to implement on myself to make this a more peaceful client experience. And so it's figuring out, what do I have control over? How can I change how I'm operating to see a different experience reflected back to me? And then, as fate, spiritual law has it, the client reached out like a month later saying like, they needed to shift and change gears. So it's interesting how life just kind of unfolds, but in a more peaceful, calming way, as opposed to just canceling the client right now. I'm angry, you know what I mean? So it's figuring out what those feelings are that your self and your not self emotions are, and kind of taking responsibility as to what is it that I need to do to change how I'm showing up would be some questions that I would start to have that person inquire within themselves.
As an entrepreneur, a lot of times you're on this solo journey. Even if you do have a partnership of some sort, you're still working through how to function as an individual as you grow in yourself personally, but then also alongside this new relationship, which is the business. So it's such a beautiful thing to be able to have those tools to look back to. But I kind of want to pivot to you, since you've been doing this for so long. How have you been able to juggle everything from clients to your own growth in your own entrepreneurship journey to your relationship to moving from LA to Dallas, in all the ways, friends, family. I mean, how have you been able to handle this entrepreneurship journey? And like, what tools have you used to help keep you sane?
I was so afraid of experiencing negative things happening in my life that my life has provided me opportunities and situations to go through really hard things to learn how to navigate and to get over the thing that we're very fearful of to begin with. So I would say 10 years ago, I would have been deeply afraid of closing my business. I would have been afraid of being in debt. I would have been afraid of losing clients. I would have been afraid of filing for unemployment. I would have been afraid of moving from Los Angeles to anywhere else. And as life has taught me, it's that anytime I feel fearful of something, I go straight into it. Like, I'm just remembering this like memory as a child where I was driving this dirt bike and it was my brother's little dirt bike. And I was thinking so hard to not drive into the fence that I just drove straight into the fence. That's literally how I can say my whole life has been. Anything that I've been deeply afraid of or I thought was going to like ruin me or wreck me, the world has presented that opportunity for me to go through and to learn that I'm still alive. I can make it through things. There has been so many big lessons learned. And the reason why I said all those is because those are all things that I have gone through. I've dissolved my business. I've been in debt. I've filed for unemployment. I've lost clients. I have moved from Los Angeles to Dallas, which has, been the greatest blessing. But I say that because literally everything I was deeply afraid of has actually come true. And I've learned to overcome it. It's made my character so much more compassionate and empathetic and resilient. And those were traits that I didn't have. And so I almost think that I was so afraid of that because I didn't have those traits. And so my journey has just been, the universe is going to put me in situations where I'm going to need to learn how to do that to develop those characteristics and skills. I am not saying by any means that is like how everyone learns at all. So please don't anyone take that as your future if you have fears. But what I have learned and what I will say as advice is that there's nothing that we can't get through. And even if it's sad and it's challenging and it's really scary, there are people that can help you. There are people that have been through it and have gone through it and are compassionate and can help you and can hold you in that space. And that has been the greatest blessing I got out of it, was that the people around me helped me in ways that I would have never thought because I just didn't know how to lean on people. And community, which I know is such a big thing for you. I always see you doing events and activations and bringing people together and provide like that community aspect is something that I feel is so genuine for you and true for you. And I think that has been the biggest lesson, is that we're really not alone in these experiences, and that, yes, we have to have autonomy and responsibility for the decisions that we make 100%, but also there are people that can help us and can be there for us and may not get you out of it, because maybe your lesson is that you have to figure out your way out, but you can still be loved and accepted and held in those spaces when you feel like, you're a failure, or, the worst case scenario came true. And, so it's interesting. And my best advice would be, to embrace the opportunity to grow and to learn from it and to reach out for help when you need help.
Which is so huge. And it's so funny that you say that as kind of like the big overarching like thing to help support you in this journey, because I feel like, especially on this entrepreneurship journey, at least me personally, I do not ask for help because I'm like, oh, I can figure it out. And especially as an entrepreneur, you're always trying to figure out things. You're always trying to problem solve. You're always trying to fix things. And it's like, well, this is my business and I'm the only one that's going to understand it. Oh, have I learned? Oh, have I learned so much? But throughout this journey, it is so important that you bring other people in, even if it's not to the direct business in the first couple years, or maybe it is, but people to have that sounding board, whether it's in your personal life or in your business life, I feel like is massive, because every single time I realize, oh, I'm burnt out, I'm exhausted, I'm in a season where it's way harder to navigate than I feel like it should be, it's because I'm trying to do it on my own.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like there's a societal pressure of, if you identify as someone who's an entrepreneur, you somehow know all the answers to things, and that by asking for help, it's showing a sign of weakness or something like that. And, you can take that in any aspect of life. You're going through a health thing, like it can relate to so many different things that we just don't feel like we can rely on or ask for help. And yeah, that's been my biggest lesson, because I very similarly, I just, from a very egoic place and maybe confidence or just naivety, just was like, oh, figure it out. And I wish there would have been more conversations that it's okay to ask for help or not know how to do something, and for that to be okay. But we don't really see that too often.
The one thing that I do love is that I do think it's getting better, that the conversations are now coming up. And I feel like your story has been so genuine in the way of, how can I help support bringing the wellness into business? And I think that is so integral of who you are, to help support not only yourself, but to all of your clients, to make that authenticity and that truth shine so well. If someone is continuing on this entrepreneurship journey, wherever they are, would there be like a mindfulness tactic? Would there be like a tip to help support them on a wellness basis, if they're in the wellness space or not, to grow, to expand, to step into that authenticity?
What comes to mind, and the one thing that I wish I had known earlier, is that there's an opportunity to really ask ourselves, what is really true for me right now? And we may not know what the future is going to hold. We've already experienced the past, but what is in my present experience right now that I know is to be true within me, and trusting on that information as opposed to where the mind's headed in the future, or what I think I should be doing, or where I want to go. Anytime I've made a decision from that place, there's something inauthentic about it. It's maybe coming from fear or lack or whatever you want to fill it in with. But it's just, something has shifted recently where I'm really focusing in on the present moment and being like, what is true for me, where I stand right now, with this breath I'm taking, with this moment, with this email I'm writing, with like really getting insular with it. Because I feel we forget about the power of our intuition and the power of our inner knowing. And we get so forward thinking, so in our heads about what it should be, that we lose sight of what's true for us right now. Because I feel like there's so much more wisdom that if we were to ask that question, we would have very different results. And an example of how I practice this in my business and in my work, specifically through the lens of content creation. Every Wednesday, I send out a newsletter to my subscribers. And yesterday, I had internet power outage for 6.5 hours. So from 11:30 to 5:30, my internet was out. And I still hadn't had time to write my Wednesday newsletter. So my logical mind was like, you have a course coming out, and enrollment for a course that's ending in 10 days. You should write something to promote that. I started drafting. This is the practice of conscious content creation. And I can feel the forcing, the forcing of each sentence of it needing to make sense. And I just kept getting like the no. But my head's like, well, you have a course to promote. But like, you have a course, you have to promote. And the story that came through was completely unrelated to the program, but actually the wisdom of that newsletter generated more email responses than any of my promotional emails would have been. And it was a story that lived true for me in the moment, which was yesterday was August 19th, my partner's birthday, and also the 1-year anniversary of when we came to visit Dallas. So I felt called to share that story of coming to Dallas a year ago. And the story that ended up coming out on paper was how I manifested our dream home in 24 hours. And I used in my story this Kabbalistic teaching called the 24-hour rule. And that fed into my promotion of my course because I weave in spiritual teachings and consciousness lessons whilst teaching these business modalities. So it ended up working out, and more people have responded to that email than a generic promotional email would have been. And I wrote it from my heart. I wrote it from the truth, and it would have been completely different if I had written from what my logical mind would have made. Do you see how there's so much knowing and like abundance in the present moment that we can really captivate on, that a lot of people are missing out on because they think it's in the future. They think it's some like heady thing but the truth really is the catalyst of authentic content creation, authentic substance creation, anything is what we have right here. So I would be tune in with what it is true for you right now.
Substance. Hello.
Hello.
And I mean, I couldn't speak better or clearer to that at all, because that practice of coming back to your present moment, not only in business so that you can listen to yourself. Oh my God. I mean, what a beautiful life practice that we all need to get better at, because we're always thinking about how we can be the best versions of ourselves, or what's the next glow up? What can we do for that next version of ourselves? It's always what's next. And then it's like, hold on, let's just take a moment. Let's stay here and see what wisdom that we have right here, right now, to naturally get to that next step, for that next step to actually come to us.
Yes. I'm so glad you said that, because so much of what I'm learning how to do is to play my part and allow the universe, creator, source, God, any energy to meet me. Yeah. And that is how to help avoid burnout, is when we feel like we're just the engine that could, because it can feel so out of control when we allow the universe to meet us. But that burnout comes from overextending and going into places where we don't need to go. And what we need to identify is, how far do I need to go to feel complete? And I've done my job. And then the universe meets me. The universe can help support you, and that's receiving. And that's a beautiful lesson that I'm really glad you brought up, because I don't think it's talked about enough in the entrepreneurial space. And I think the people that we see that do get momentum and do get success, and again, we don't know if it's smoke and mirrors, which I know we've talked about a lot on side conversations, that not always what we see is true. But for the ones that you notice out there in the world that feel integral, that feel grounded, that feel embodied, I deeply trust that they're co-creating with the universe to have their part being met, instead of the forcing and the manipulation and the controlling and all of these things. And it's a beautiful practice. And just that's what the 24-hour rule actually is. It's like, I'm going to give my 100% for 24 hours and then leave it up to the creator, not up to me at that point.
Yeah.
If the house is meant to be ours, the house will be ours. If it's not, it's not. Same with my program. I'm going to do everything I said I was going to do. I'm going to put out my promotional assets. I'm going to do the things. If no one ends up signing up, it's not a reflection of me. Yeah, no one needed it right now. Or I need to go through that journey to practice promoting, to practice selling, and it literally, in my eyes, people are probably like, this girl's delusional. But in my eyes, I don't take it as like an insult, because I know that I'm learning and I'm trying and I am putting what I feel to be best out there. And that to me is a huge win. Again, it's a completely different way of understanding business and things, but it's my approach. It's the approach that I take with my clients and the way that I like to view the world.
And that's the magic of it too. I just want to thank you for coming on and sharing a little bit of your story, but also the magic of how you work with not only clients, but how you have navigated your own entrepreneurship journey. And I just can't wait for all of the things that are wanting to manifest and how they're going to come to manifest.
Thank you.
How can people find you?
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. And I also just want to say before I answer the question, it means so much to me that I've met you here in Dallas, that we've become friends, and also to know that this podcast will reach so many people here where we live, because it's a huge intention of mine of being able to help and provide support to Dallas-based businesses too. So it really means so much to me. So thank you so much. And people can find me on Instagram. So I'm on Instagram at Amanda L. Chase or at Substance Platform. Considering I'm a one-woman show, running both of them is like a lot. So like sometimes you'll see me pop up on randomly, like, so maybe just follow both because you never know where I'll pop up. And then of course my website, which is wearesubstance.co. Yeah, I just welcome that if anyone feels called to dive into the world of substance. I have newsletters, I have Substack, I have Instagram content. I have so much free stuff going out that you can, learn and consume without even having to sign up for a program or anything. So yeah, if this is interesting to you, if you're curious, just sign up for stuff. You'll get random information every now and then.
Yes, I love it.
Yeah. So thank you so much for having me. This was so fun.